5-3, Hedland. 5-3, Hedland.
Hedland, 5-3.
5-3, the Redmont gang's working just south of shore. If you give them a couple of good blasts as you're approaching, please.
Roger, roger, will do.
A single-track rail line runs for 426 kilometres through mountainous and desert regions in the far northwest of Australia. It is maintained by men like Jonci Todorovsky, a Yugoslav track labourer who has worked on this line for 11 years. Janos Wroblewski is a Polish-born ganger returning to the isolated railway camp at Redmont after 4 weeks' holiday in Southeast Asia.
Hedland 14, departed 202.7.
You want to get Jerry?
Jerry Kovacevic is also Yugoslav. He started on the line as a temporary labourer 9 years ago and is now foreman of the Redmont gang.
Yeah, roger, call him approach 274.2.
There are a whole range of guys that come and live and work at Redmont. They must have one thing in common. They must like the kind of isolation that there is. It can be a fairly lonely life. There are people that stay for 5 to 10 years, other people that stay only 6 months.
The hard core of long-term workers on the maintenance gang has come from the Yugoslav community.
Jonci is the epitome of the traditional Yugoslav employee. Speaks very little English, doesn't socialise outside of other Yugoslavs in the camp, and will probably retire here quite a happy man.
The workers' camp at Redmont is like a tiny oasis in this northwest desert country, the only settlement along the 426 kilometres of railway track.
This is the third time I come back from holidays from Thailand and Philippines. And I don't like it here, because it's sort of coming back from paradise into a hellhole. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, since I started travelling overseas. I go straight over, blow it all, come back on break. But I've got to get out of this joint.
The Redmont camp is about 120 kilometres from Marble Bar, one of the most remote towns in Australia, and famous for registering the highest temperatures on the continent. The line was built to carry iron ore mined at Mount Whaleback, a huge open-pit mine operated by the Mount Newman Mining Company. Three diesel locomotives haul a train of ore cars stretching up to 2 kilometres in length. Each train carries 18,000 tonnes of ore, 10 times a day, 7 days a week, through to Port Hedland. The presence of this single mine has led to the transformation of Hedland from a minor port in an isolated region to a major industrial centre.
Typically there are about 80 people permanently based at Redmont. There's been 3 closures out of 4 camps, so that Redmont is the last camp along the line. There's been a merging of gangs, and there's been a merging of societies because each camp had its own society.
In your own small world here, you're not really aware of what's happening outside you. We have had a few people over the years that come up and within a couple of weeks they just can't handle it. The isolation just gets them and they pull the pin and go.
I thought it's a nice and easy job, glory, but once they get out the track, they start swinging a hammer. You can sort out the men from the boys.
When the line was beginning to be maintained, a certain work ethic was required to live out here in the isolation, and there has been a fairly long Yugoslav tradition here on the line. Many of the men have wives and relatives back in the homeland, and they support those people from Australia.
Good morning, Alan. 171.5, I like to put men on track.
We don't need anymore anyway, so why put them in the truck? Just leave it there. Just leave us all away from there anyway, just put up.
It's like an oven, especially when you work in the cuttings. When you walk out, I mean, you're just soaked. Have a pair of shorts and you can just see the layers that I've been sweating because all the salt marks just on all the shorts.
It is little consolation for the men to know that they carry on a great tradition. The building and maintenance of railways in outback Australia have always caused extreme physical hardship. The 2 outstanding achievements in the history of Australian railways are the line built across the Nullarbor Plain from 1912 to 1917 and the line from Port Augusta to Alice Springs, completed in 1929. On the Nullarbor line, they built the world's longest stretch of straight railway track. With the youngest and most physically fit men drawn to the war in Europe, it was sometimes difficult to find workers. Yet in the heat and harsh conditions, these men broke world records for their speed in track laying. Quarrying rock for ballast was one of the more demanding jobs. One of those still here to remember is Bill Crow.
Well, I went there to work, and I was put off the train at 8 o'clock at night, and I lived in a tent. Oh, God, I'll never forget it. Magpies and crows and goats used to come there and pinch a bit of fruit and all that. But anyhow, I was sent down in the pit. Oh, it was terrible. The blazing sun pelting down in this great big heap of gravel with big rocks and stones of all sizes and shapes, and we had to shovel it into trucks.
It was fairly hot in the Nullarbor. Instead of having a mouthful of water, they'd drink a big pannikin full, you know, and then they'd be sick, make them vomit, make them weak, give them diarrhea.
As a boy, Mick Williams worked as a water joey, carrying water to the thirsty men.
The usual, the old hands They'd go and have just a sip and rinse their mouth out, and that was it. About a half hour or so, three-quarters of an hour later, they'd come back and have another one. And these other guys are strangers, new chums, they'd come in and have a full pannikin full. No good to them.
Oh, terrible. Sometimes it'd be 122 degrees. Once it went up to 124 for a full week. And they could hardly work because they had to use cloth to pick up the tools. They were like fire.
Baby Norabija is the daughter of an Afghan camel driver who worked on the Port Augusta to Alice Springs line, eventually to be known as the Gan, in honor of these men. Charlie Dadler is now retired in outback Mari, a township on the original Gan line. His father's camel teams helped build the line, and Charlie later ran his own camels.
When I started working first, driving camels, and that I was only getting £1 a week, supposed to have been getting £1 a week. We got nothing a week. My father came from Karachi. He said he did anyway. Where's that, in Pakistan somewhere, isn't it? And I don't know what year it was, in 1880s or 1890s, somewhere like that. They brought him out to drive the camels way. It was very hard work. You had to load them up every morning and unload them every night. The same thing every day.
The building of railways played an important part in opening up outback areas of Australia. They carried food, livestock and equipment to remote places and eventually replaced the camel trains. But most importantly, they changed the social patterns of outback Australians. The railways created lifelines between communities in far-flung places, and people who lived in the outback would no longer feel so isolated by distance.
They got off the train at Cook to have a look around, and all they could see out of there was nothing, you know. So this Yank said to his mates, I've heard the Aussies talk a lot about sweet fuck all, but this is the first time I've ever seen it.
Railways today play a different role in opening up remote areas. This is a private railway, and it carries iron ore, not people. For many years, the Mount Newman rail line had difficulty in recruiting labour for maintenance gangs. Only migrants seemed prepared to suffer the extreme hardships and isolation of the Northwest, and in particular, the Yugoslavs.
I came here about 9 years ago, track labourer. I did that for about 6-7 months. Every night when I go back to my room, I just look at my hands, you know, all blisters and all that. And what I said to myself, well, you know, if I think I'm going to stay here longer, you know, I'm going to get better job than what I'm doing now. When I started, I thought I'm going to stay for about 2-3 months until I make a few quid, and I'll go back to city, and still here. Rascal, how about my old Jerry?
I was born in Yugoslavia, and 1972 came to Perth. I started work in the factory. Couldn't say a word of English. It was very hard. The second day, I just picked my shirt up and was walking off, you know, and the boss was chasing me, you know. I just told him I'm going home, you know.
Yeah, Roger, I'll see you when you get in.
Velik Lazarov, like so many others at the camp, came strictly for the money.
Velik's a recent addition to the camp, relatively recent. He constantly wants to learn, and being young, has a tremendous amount of energy.
Velik had worked as a labourer on the track maintenance gang for 2 years, but became dissatisfied with the monotony of the work. Although he still works on the line, his ambition led him to ask for some mechanical experience in the workshop.
You better give these holes a spray first.
Yeah.
Right.
When I first knew him, they used to call him Bulgar, which is, I suppose, it's short for Bulgaria. Just recently, he got made an Australian citizen, and when that happened, we called him Skippy, because he's now Australian, you see.
I come out from Bulgaria is very funny, because I heard from one guy on the west is very good, you know. That is the correct, you know. And I haven't seen before the west, you know. I just heard, I just dreaming, you know. I haven't been there, nowhere. Because I grew up with my father and my mother 26 years. I never lived separate with them, you know. We building all the wife together, you know. I help him, he helped me, and when I go from my country, and my father, when he write me, he say, I think this is the dream, you know. He never believe. When I give call from Austria, he say, I can't believe it, that, you know. And he say, you have to go back to Bulgaria, you know. I say, yes, I come, you know. And because I scared to go back to my country, I say, yes, I come back, no worries. You don't worry for that, you know. And when I come up here and I give call again, and he say, Jesus Christ, where you go, you know? Because Australia is too far away from Europe, you know. It's so hard for me up here too, because I have to build my life from beginning, you know. I have to start from nothing. What can I do? This is the life.
Save up enough dough and just piss off from me. It's the only thing for me. The dough I was earning, I used to sit back, play poker. To drop 800 to 1,000 to 2 grand a night was peanuts. Everything I earned, I just blew it on piss and gambling. Some of the blokes that are still sort of around, like say Booger for example, saves every little cracker. He's only been 2.5 years, he's fairly close to already paid his house off. So there's blokes like him that are fairly smart. They sit here for 3-4 years. They don't gamble, they don't drink. But sort of, you know, you've got to do it. Me, I've lived before, thought I'd live here, and it's just money comes, money goes. I was born in Poland, come out here 59. I used to go at my grandmother's place where I lived. Oh, I could go there to Poland today and pick the same flat, but with parents and everyone were there, the street, the park, go and see my aunties, still sort of remember them. But with all the solidarity and everything going on, the martial law, most probably I'll be one of the type that get on the old Polish vodka there, and before I know it, I'll be locked up. I'd be doing 6 or 60 years in the bloody salt mines in Russia. No one would see me again.
No, well, bring it up here.
I tried to get a job in the city, but I couldn't get one because most of the people, they like to stay in the city and all the jobs been taken. I'm gonna stay and keep this job probably for the next 10 years, I suppose.
You had to take whatever you could get, see? Things were fairly tough them days for work. You'd see blokes, you know, office workers come out there, you know, on the shovel and pick, hands that all blister up. You felt sorry for them and all that sort of thing, but nothing you could do about it. They had to see it out.
Some of these fellas were broken down doctors, they were broken down editors of papers and things like that. But mind you, some of them were victims of circumstances and were glad to go to work because there was no dole in those days and they had to get food by ration tickets. They'd get a ticket to get a bit of meat and a ticket to get this, that and the other. But that didn't happen to those out in the fettling jobs.
Trouble is, a lot of them got out there and they got that heavily in debt that they just couldn't leave it. They were there for years and years.
See, they didn't have any trade. And just working on the railways was something that anybody could do, really. And they had their own cottages, they had their own bedrooms, they had a cook who cooked their meals for them, and they got their full pay every payday. They saved up a lot, and what they really wanted to do, after 2 or 3 years, they went back to where they came from.
Jonci Todorovsky has been working and saving for 11 years to support his wife and 4 children in Yugoslavia. He would like to go back, but fears he could not get such a well-paid job at home. He has not seen his family for 4 years.
Kako ne bude teško, teško je bez familije, ali pred 5 godina dalo formu da je povlečem, da donesem familijata ovdje. Ali dецата ми беа големи, od 16 години. И Австралија не и примаше, не ми дозволя, само за жената ми дозволяш, па жената, ја што ќе правиме тука и децата во Југославија.
Kids, you know, they used to miss you. They'd come home and swamp all over you. One would want to comb your hair, change your shoes, put your slippers on, and yes, it was, yeah, didn't realise it till the kids start to grow up, you know. I think that's what upset my wife, you know. She took to the sherry flagging. So I stuck it out till my health, well, our home broke up and my health failed. I had a nervous breakdown and, you know, blood pressure because I drank a lot of plonk then. Wear black and blue, you'd get off the job as soon as you could, but you didn't get off, you stopped on it, you know.
To be married and to live separate, I don't like that. I've been married, and when I come up here, I haven't got a chance to bring my missus up here, and we split it, you know. She has to marry up there, I have to find some woman up here. It's so hard to bring my missus up here, so hard. And I think it's not very good to live separate when you're married.
My ex-missus come over for a couple of weeks over here. Oh, it was good. Suppose could have got back together, but once bitten, twice shy, I suppose. I don't think it sort of would work out between me and her. She's got her own life and I sort of got a different idea now. I suppose I'll bump into a bird somewhere along the line that's for my style and liking. I don't know.
I've been here so long, and I said to myself, well, this doesn't lead to nowhere, you know, I better settle down. So I got married back home. But it's very hard because she has to stay at Hedland and I got to come back here at Redmond.
Social life over here is not much good. We can go every second weekend, fly back Monday morning, and really you can't sort of get yourself a girlfriend or anything because you're 2 weeks here, and it's very, very hard socialising. I'd love to go and pack up and just go, but finances are a little bit low on me, so I can't go anywhere.
Cheers, mate. Hang on. I like to be in the city if I can get the job, because in the city you can have good time. Not like here, just from work you go in bed, from bed work, that's all you do.
To live in isolation, as we call it, you've got to be a pretty level-headed sort of guy, a person that doesn't fret easy or get upset easy, and that's got to be able to handle boredom. The job does get pretty repetitious, but it's not so much that, it's when you finish work at the end of the day, because you're not in Port Hedland or Newman or Ave Town, you haven't got the other avenues. You're locked into the wet canteen or the video room or the TV.
To begin serving an 18-month prison sentence for income tax evasion.
We have had a few in years gone by who've finished up nearly having a nervous breakdown because they've come in and they've wanted to save that money, although they hated the place. Because of the isolation, they couldn't hack it, and eventually it got them down mentally. Nobody finished up in the funny farm, but you could see it happening with the guys over a period of time.
Two, for failing to pay taxes on...
Because they've been living in isolation, they tend to lose communication with the outside world. When they do go to Perth or wherever, they feel out of place because they've sort of lost track of the normal type day-to-day conversation, and they've lost that art of communication.
The only thing sort of keep you sane over here, you just hit the bar every night. Just get yourself obliviated. Next day you just float off to work. Do your thing, and the days go really fast, like weeks fly then. But if you sort of sit straight sober for